wire packing for my African safari. And I promised to get back to you in another YouTube video to show you what colors I ended up putting in my pocket palette that I bought from Expeditionary Art. And I actually ended up buying the whole toolkit because I got a newsletter and it comes in purple now. Purple is my favorite color. So how could I say no? And in the process, I also bought a couple of extra brushes, and I'll go over that in the video now, and then I'll go over the colors and everything else I purchased for this particular trip, and my sketchbooks that I'm going to bring. And I'm actually also going to bring all this stuff in May. In May, you might want to make a note of this if any of you might be interested. I think I still have a couple of spots. I am going to teach a watercolor pen and ink workshop and retreat on an old alpine homestead high up in the Carinthian Alps in Austria. And it's run by my Austrian in-law family, and it's been in the family, hang on, since 1299. Of course, you know, it's been updated many times since, and it's just a fabulous, beautiful place. If you are at all interested, check it out on my website, beautyonlocation.com, and over on the right side, you'll find Austria Workshop 2020. So it's the last week of May 2020, and it goes from Monday through Friday, and that gives you plenty of time to do some travel around Europe before and after, because it's smack dab in the middle of Europe, and literally it's like 3 to 5 hours to all sorts of cool places in Austria, of course, in Germany, Switzerland, Slovenia, Croatia, Italy. I mean, all of those countries are within a max 5-hour drive. So you might want to give that a try. But anyway, let's get back to my review, not review, but, you know, looking at what I'm going to bring, what colors I'm going to bring, and other things that I'm going to bring. And I have a little thank you to Brian Ashmore. He's another YouTuber, and he gave me a tip on containers for water with a lid, and they're small, and you can put a magnet on them and stuff. I'll share that with you in a bit. But anyway, let's get started. So I got my little toolkit palettes filled, and I'm gonna show you what colors I ended up with. And you know, you might remember from the first video that I did a while back when I just bought it, that, you know, I bought some extra of these little pans for the watercolors, because they, you know, they came with 14 of these pans, and they're too small for what I usually like. So I bought some of the ones that are twice the size. But you'll see when I show you how I filled my palette. And I had just bought one palette, because that should really be enough, right? And then some of those extra pans. And then I got so excited when I saw the little palette here that I decided to buy another one, and the little Demi one that's just half the size. And I went ahead and got the toolkit with the pouch, and it actually came with one of these here, and I already had one, so I was like, oh, okay, that's good. And then I bought the little one, and this pouch came with a little sketchbook, and I've already used it a little bit. It's moleskin, and it's not really paper that I normally like to paint on, but, you know, for little sketches, I took it out on a couple of hikes, and just to test it out. Oops, I should hold it here so you can see. So I took it out on a couple of hikes so I could test it out, and for just a little pen and ink and then a little bit of watercolor sketching, it works just fine. So I'll probably bring that along, and the nice thing about it is that it fits right into the pouch here. And this pouch also came with a water brush, and it came with a little syringe so you can fill the water brush. And then it came with a pen, a Sharpie pen, black one, with a fine tip, so you can see that. And it has a little ruler. And then it had these two little clips, you know, to hold down the pages on your sketchbook if it gets windy. That might come in handy, you know, just like this. So, and they don't take up any room, so I'm definitely going to keep them. And then I've already put in like one of my cut up credit cards because I definitely like that tool. And then I went ahead also and bought 2 travel brushes, and they're from Rosemary and Company, which are a British company, and they're really great brushes. And the reason I bought it was I saw they had 1/4" dagger brush, which, you know, I'm a big fan of the daggers. It has that really sharp angle. I'm sure that's going to come in really, really handy. And then I bought this other one, which is like a mop. It has a really fine tip. So and it holds a lot of water because it's a natural hair. So that was a splurge and completely not necessary, really, because I actually already have a couple of good travel brushes that I bought a while ago. They're a little bit bigger, but I usually don't like to fiddle around with little tiny brushes. So I have this one that's from Joe Miller's Cheap Joe's. Pseudo Sable, this one is called, and it's a size 12, so it's nice and big. And then I got this one that I've had also, and this one is a mixed 50-50, I think, natural hair and synthetic. And it's a size 8, and it also has a nice tip. So you know, they're not the same. So I think actually they'll make a nice complete travel set. That's at least my excuse. And then I have this one also from Joe Miller. That's just a flat brush, and I think that's great for, you know, quick washes. So I definitely got to bring the 2 Rosemary brushes with me. And I think I probably am going to bring these 3 also. It's really hard because when you pack at home, you want to bring too much stuff. That's at least my experience from myself. And then when you're out in the field there and traveling around, it's actually a pain in the butt if you have too much stuff. So I'm going to have a serious talk with myself before I completely 100% decide what I'm going to bring. But I'm going to show you what's up in the running. And then, so I'm going to bring this, and that'll hold these 2 brushes. It'll hold this one here, and it'll hold my palettes, and it'll hold this. I have this little spray bottle that came with the travel kit also. So that was really good. So it'll hold all that stuff. And then I definitely need a kneaded eraser. And I need a pencil. I'm just going to bring one of these here. Not this particular one, but, you know, one exactly like that. And then I want to find a little container, I think, or maybe season. Then I watched somebody else online. Now I can't remember what the guy's name was, but he did some YouTube videos with his setup, and he had these little containers where you can put a little bit of water in, because, you know, if I'm not using my water brush, then I am going to need some water for my brushes. And you know, when you're out there in the bush, it's not like you can have like big containers of water, and you know, that's not going to work. But a little bit of water like this might work. And then, you know, it has a screw lid on, and then it's actually a clip-on. And then I took my pliers and straightened out the clip, and then I put a magnet on, because then it can actually clip onto here or hang onto there. It doesn't feel like it's super sturdy, and I don't really know how practical that would be. But if nothing else, it'll make it maybe a little bit easier to not flip over. And then I have another one where I haven't destroyed the clip, so that could also clip on then to my sketchbook. I mean, that would be another option. I don't know. I'll just have to see. When I was out and about, I just used my, for these couple of sketches, I just used my little water brush for these here. All right, so that's all that stuff. And actually I can actually probably put just my kneaded eraser in there. That way it's protected. Because that's, you don't want it to just float around and get all sorts of weird stuff on it. All right, so then another thing before we get to the colors I wanted to show you. I'm probably going to bring one of my pads that I sealed, and I have that in another YouTube video. I'm going to link it below if you haven't seen that one, how I made my own little travel pad. I made that when I was teaching a workshop in China a couple of years ago. I gave each of my students one of these and a water brush and a little palette that I had filled myself out of just mint tins. And I have a video on how to do that. I'm going to link that below. But anyway, this one is kind of nice because it's sealed and it'll keep everything nice and flat. And it's my Arches 140 cold pressed watercolor paper, which I like to paint on. Because that's the problem I have with all the sketchbooks, is that, I like to paint on arches. I'm just kind of particular with that. So I had this watercolor journal prepared by my local office supply store. It's called up in Truckee, and I had already cut my watercolor paper in a little bit bigger than 5 by 7, and then they spiral bound it for me, and they put a clear front and then kind of a plastic black back, and then a spiral. And then I had cut out some Yupo paper just for my front here, because I figured that way I can do maybe something fun with the front, and if I don't like it I can wipe it off. And then I have mainly 140 pound Arches cold pressed watercolor paper, but I also included some sheets of 300 pounds in the back here. And so this should be plenty of pages or sheets of watercolor paper for me to paint on my trip. I know how it goes. You never get nearly as much painted as you think. And I love the spiral bound because it lies now nice and flat. So that's what I'm going to bring. And then that other little moleskin book that came with my pouch here. So that's that. Let's get to the fun stuff. I mean, this is fun too, but... Oh, and then I might bring some washi tape. I just ordered some, just so if I can do little borders around. Anyway, all these things. So here I have some old sheets of watercolor paper so I can do a little testing of the colors. So let me show you. This is the one I filled first, and that's like my primary palette, I call it. And it comes with 14 of this size paint containers. And they are smaller than what I normally like to use. So that's why I bought a bunch of extra ones. They have them in different sizes. So I bought the size, I bought a bunch of the size that is twice as big. And then I filled, so there was room for 6 of those. And then I have 2 of this size here. And they also come even smaller. I know some painters, they like to have a whole bunch of colors, so that's another option. But I don't like it because I like to paint with bigger brushes. So what colors did I decide on? Well, I decided on fairly close to my standard palette, and it's basically a split complementary palette. So I have a transparent yellow, I have, and then I have burnt sienna for quote-unquote my warm yellow, so that would be my cool yellow, my warm yellow, and then my warm blue would be French ultramarine blue, and then my cool blue is Antwerp blue, and all these colors here from Winsor Newton. And then for my cool red, I have Permanent Rose from Winsor Newton, and then I have Quinacrodone Coral from Daniel Smith as my warm red. And then my 2 extra colors is, I have Cobalt blue here, and then I have Permanent Magenta. So I think that is a really, really good palette. And let me just show you real quick what that would produce. And I tend to go more for the brighter colors, because you can always dull down bright colors. However, you know, you can't make dull colors brighter. That's kind of like my principle that I kind of go by. And then I find here, so take the yellow here. So it is my favorite yellow. There's no getting around it. It's my favorite yellow. Let me just spray in a little bit more. And so you can see it's a nice rich yellow, and it's just glowing. It's just wonderful. I'm just in love with that color. Now, if I wanted to have more like a Quinacrodone gold, if I take a little bit of my burnt sienna, I can warm up this yellow. And then this is very close to, because I mean, and transparent yellow is the yellow I have, and that's PY 150. And PY 150 is one of the pigments in most of the Quinacrodone golds that I have come across. And then let me show you, if we go with my French Ultramarine blue, put a bunch of that out here. And again, I'll just spray a little bit so you can kind of see. So if we mix some of that, we get some lovely greens that are not too bright. And if you want them even less bright, we can go over here, and you know, they get toned down by the burnt sienna. And then if we want to have purples, if we go with permanent rose, which is this color here, let me just show you. See, so that's my cool red, so it's a pink. And you can see pink, and look at that, beautiful, beautiful. I mean, you can get some really, really gorgeous purples with that. And then if you wanted to go for more like a peachy color, if you take a little bit of the yellow, you can get some more peach-like colors. And orange. So that's gonna be great. And then for my cool blue, I went with Antwerp, which is a nice, rich, cool blue, and quite a strong color. So that's great for, you know, that together with the French Ultramarine blue and burnt sienna can create some wonderful dark browns and grays and stuff, and also dark greens. So, and that one will also give me quite some nice purples, if that's what I was after. See, a little bit of a different tone, but it's still, you can get some really, really nice purples. So I'm good on the purple for sure. And then if you wanted to do some greens, some bright greens, I'm taking some of my transparent yellow, and you can see you can get some really, really bright greens. If you know, if I see some parrots or something, I don't know, or some other birds that are really colorful, or it's going to be summer when I'm in Africa, and so who knows, there might be some really spring greens there. But can you see? And if I wanted to have the more muted greens, then I use my French Ultramarine blue, and plus I get the granulation. And if I wanted more muted greens with the Antwerp blue, then I took a little bit of the burnt sienna, and the burnt sienna and Antwerp blue, they make some lovely, lovely dark, rich, like forest greens, like that. So definitely I'm all covered on the greens. And then my warm red, I after much research, I landed on Daniel Smith's Quinacrodone Core, because that is just a little bit more warm red than the Quinacrodone red that I normally use. And I think I'm going to switch over actually in my regular palette to use the Core, Quinacrodone Core from Daniel Smith, as my true red, or as my, you know, warm red on my regular palette. And of course, I'm sure you can imagine, you put a little bit of that transparent yellow in and you get like really glowing oranges. Then I have a little bit of cobalt blue, because that's always good for skies and stuff, and also great for when I want to have grays, and you know, I should hopefully see elephants and all sorts of stuff. So I'm going to take some of my burnt sienna. So that's my burnt sienna is a stand-in for a warm red, no, a warm yellow actually. But you know, a burnt sienna together with either cobalt blue, like here, all sorts of grays and softer browns, soft grays and browns. And of course, if you use the burnt sienna with French ultramarine blue, you also can get like rich dark browns, and you can also get rich grays. So let me get some burnt sienna on here, like that. So you can see elephant colors right there, and hippos, and who knows what kinds of animals. Can you see that? So that they play really well together. And then the last color that I got on my palette here, also in just one of the small containers there, is my permanent magenta, because I do love a permanent magenta to, for instance, if I want like really rich reds, if I put some of that into the Quinacrodone Cobalt, you can get some really rich, darker reds without it turning purple. Because that's the thing about red, can be hard sometimes to darken them without them turning purple. And then of course we can also use it to make like rich, really deep purples with the French ultramarine blue. Get a little bit more of it. Can you see that? So it's a wonderful palette. So that palette alone, I don't know why I would think I would need anything else. I mean, look at that. Super bright greens. You can get more muted greens. That's with the Antwerp. You can get beautiful purples with the Antwerp. And then with the French ultramarine blue and the transparent yellow, you can get more muted greens. And then if you put a little bit of the burnt sienna in your transparent yellow, then you can get a Quinacrodone gold color, and then of course that will tone down the green made with the French ultramarine blue even more. And then here's the super bright green created by Antwerp and transparent yellow. And then here I have my Quinacrodone Cobalt, wonderful oranges with the transparent yellow, and beautiful deep reds if I mix the permanent magenta in. And then here's the French ultramarine blue with some of the permanent rose, and that will create all sorts of lovely purple shades. And here is the permanent rose by itself, and if I put a little bit of the transparent yellow in, I can also get some more peachy colors and also some beautiful oranges. Not quite as bright obviously as over here. And then here I have my cobalt blue with a little bit of the burnt sienna, and that will create all sorts of beautiful gray tones and also soft browns. And then if I mix the burnt sienna with my French ultramarine blue instead, I get a darker browns and I can get darker grays. And then here I have my permanent magenta. Here it is by itself. By itself it's just a lovely color too. And if I mix it with the French ultramarine blue, I get very rich, deep, dark purples. So there you have it. That's 8 colors that I have on the palette, and I would, you know, be totally fine with this palette all by itself. So I don't really know why I felt that I had to buy some more palettes, but I just had too much fun, I guess. And so what I thought about was, okay, if I'm going to fill up this other palette, then I don't want to have any of the same colors in there. I will then just build on so that they could complement each other. And so the colors I chose for this one here I have 10 colors, and then I have an extra mixing area. So here I used this size. and then that one mixing palette that I bought extra, this one here. You know, you can take them all out too. You can, I mean, I can take them out. That's the beauty of this. That's why I love these palettes, actually, because you can take them out because it's, you know, the bottom is magnetic, and then you just take them out, and you can rearrange them however you want. And maybe I'll learn that, you know, oh, you know, I only use like 6 colors here, but then I'm using 2 over here, and then I can just, you know, switch them around. But here, let me tell you, so here, since this is my basic standard, I thought, well, let's then go a little bit with some colors that I don't use that often, but still will be good. So I have Bright Rose from Holbein, which is basically like opera rose. So it's a much brighter pink than the permanent rose. And then I have Scarlet Lake, and that will complement, you know, the Daniel Smith Coral Rose, but it's brighter. So again, I go with the same principle, a split complementary plus a couple of fun colors. So that would be my Scarlet Lake would be my warm red, and Bright Rose would be my cool red. And then I have Quinacrodone Burnt Scarlet instead of Burnt Sienna. And then I have Aussie Red Gold, which is would kind of be my warm yellow. It's orange, but it's warm yellow. And then Azo Yellow from M. Graham for my cool yellow. And then I have Green Gold from Daniel Smith. And then I have Phthalo Blue Red Shade from Daniel Smith. And then I have Cobalt Teal Blue from Daniel Smith. And then I have 2 iridescent colors here. Iridescent Electric Blue from Daniel Smith and Iridescent Gold from Daniel Smith. Just for fun. So then I have a couple of iridescent colors should I feel like it. And those colors would also make for a fun palette. I would probably not be quite as thrilled going out with this palette by itself as I would be going out with this palette by itself, because this is more in my comfort zone. But these are fun colors to punch it up with. And for instance, this Bright Rose, you know, probably be great if I see flamingos, for instance, and probably there, I don't know if there's some bright tropical flowers, and again, birds, of course, can have very, very bright colors. So that was my second filling. And then this was just so cute. I just couldn't help myself. I just thought I'd have one of these here. And so here, I could fit in 6 of this size here, and they came with these little ones, but again, that's just too small for my taste. So I made another split complementary palette, kind of, sort of, 2 reds and 2 blues and 2 quote-unquote yellows. So what I picked here was, I have New Gamboge, and I have Quinacrodone Red from Winsor Newton, and then I have Quinacrodone Magenta here. So that's my warm red, my cool red. My warm red, my cool red. And then New Gamboge, of course, it is a warm yellow, but it's the coolest / warmest. And because then the other I have is Quinacrodone Burnt Orange from Daniel Smith. Not Burnt Scarlet, but Burnt Orange. So that would be very similar to a Burnt Sienna. And then for my 2 blues, I have a Manganese Blue from Da Vinci, and then I have a Indanthrene Blue from Winsor Newton. So this would be my cool blue, and this would be my warm blue. Indanthrene Blue is pretty close to a standard, you know, like a true blue, I guess. I'll try and just show you the colors here in this little one, because they're a little bit different. So you can see here is New Gamboge, and then here's Quinacrodone Burnt Orange, and of course those 2. I think that would be great. I mean, these are giraffe colors, right? Giraffe colors. And then Quinacrodone Red, which is my typical, my standard red. Can you see how that is more pink? I don't know if you can see that. It's more pink
than the Quinacrodone Coral from Daniel Smith, so that's why I think this will be probably a new color for me. The Daniel Smith's Quinacrodone Coral, that's my warm red. And then here I had my Quinacrodone Magenta, so you know, that's for my cool red. It's a very bright. Pink, not as bright as Opera, but pretty darn bright, and brighter than the Permanent Rose that I have here. And then let's see, so that was those three colors, and then the burnt orange, and then we have the Manganese Blue, so that's a little bit like a teal color but more blue, kind of in between Cobalt and Cobalt Teal Blue. And then the Indanthrene Blue. See, there's a rich dark blue. And that is a great color. Let me show you. If I put some of the yellow in here, that gives some really, really nice greens. And if I put the yellow into the manganese, I can get some more springy yellow colors. And I can also make it into a turquoise. They're not nearly as bright as what I got, of course, with the Antwerp and the transparent yellow. But you can see if I had all three palettes together, I mean, there wouldn't be a color I couldn't create. So that was my little palette. And here on all of them I made little color swatches that actually fits inside the palette. Now when the palettes are wet, I've used them, that's, you know, obviously not a good plan. And on this one here, I even did like a little mix of all the colors together. I didn't do that on the others. And then I have sealed them with just some packing tape on either side, so they don't get destroyed right away. And just for the heck of it, let me just show you what the colors look like that I have on this palette here. So my Mayan yellow, it's a cool yellow. And then I have green gold. So that's a very, very springy, almost yellow green. So they're both in a cool yellow department, so to speak. And you can see I can actually create that color. I can create that color because that's, if I put a little bit more of the transparent yellow into the Antwerp, then that's about the same. And then the next one I have on here is Phthalo Blue, red shade. So that's this color here. Very pretty color. Also very staining, as we know. And if I mix that with a little bit of the yellow, I can also get some nice turquoisey colors, and of course I can get greens. And then the other blue that I have is Cobalt Teal Blue from Daniel Smith, which can come in handy too. And then I'm just going to stay with this standard colors first. And then here I have the Bright Rose from, look at that, from Holbein. That was a color that I learned about from taking the workshop with Sterling Edwards, because he had that on his palette. Bright Rose, it's not Opera Rose, it's Bright Rose, but it looks pretty much like the Opera Rose. And you can see it's brighter than the Quinacrodone Magenta there. And then here on this first palette I had my permanent magenta, which is a darker, more muted color. So as you can see. And then I have Scarlet Lake as my warm red. So you can see here. And of course that color together with the Mayan yellow will create some beautiful oranges. And as far as purples go, I think we're also pretty well set. If I use some of the bright, I can either use the bright rose and some of that phthalo blue red shade. Let's see. I need more of the bright rose. And otherwise, some bright rose there. Yeah, look at those. That's going to be gorgeous, gorgeous purples for sure, depending on how much. So it takes quite a bit of the bright rose to get that phthalo blue to change. It's not surprising because phthalos are very, very strong colors. All right, so that's a good color. And so, and then my neutral that I have here is the Quinacrodone Burnt Scarlet. So that's instead of Burnt Sienna. So you can see there, and I'm thinking, let's see if I'm right, that color together with a little bit of the phthalo blue, yeah, that'll create some nice neutrals. Dark browns and some gray tones. Yeah, that'll also create some gray tones. So that's that. And then finally I picked Aussie red gold. Is that what it's called? Yeah, Aussie red gold, which is a orange, bright orange color. And of course that one, let's just try that out. That one, let's get some more. That one together with a little bit of the phthalo blue red shade will create some fantastic greens that are not too bright. For the two last spots on this palette, I decided to go for a couple of the iridescent colors. And so I went with the iridescent blue. They have to be, I should probably have wet them a little bit because the iridescent colors takes a little bit longer for them to reconstitute, I've noticed. But that would be kind of fun. It's a bright, sparkly blue. So I can have fun with that one. And then, you know, it's always fun to have a little bit of gold. And let's put that over here, yeah. Let's give that just a moment. That would be super fun. But I have to remember, if I want to use them, it's best if you wet the iridescent colors. You know, just give them a little water, a little drop of water, and then let them sit for just a couple of minutes. That way they're much easier to reconstitute. And it's not so rough on your brushes. But there you have it. So here, this was my first choice colors, split primary, and then with 2 extras. So 8 colors here. And I did that little bit of color testing just for fun, you know, and you can see, I mean, this is just it's the top of the iceberg of all the colors I can get with these colors here. And they're very bright, but you know, when you mix them, then you can tone them down and you can get all sorts of lovely muted colors. And then here, that was my 2 other palettes here that also are basically, I mean, I kind of went more or less for split complementary, but you know, I stretched it a little bit. And so here you can see, if I bring all, and I'm going to bring all 3 palettes. I mean, heck, they don't take up much room. So I can have a lot of fun. Also on the plane and stuff, because man, it's long plane ride. But I'm not going to complain about that. I'm very excited. So there you have a little insight in what I've been up to, trying to figure this out. It's a lot of fun to play with. And you know, when you do these things and give it some thought and stuff, you really learn something every time. I'm going to list underneath, and I'm going to take pictures so you can see. So anyway, I promised to share it, so here you have it. And I will report back from my trip. Probably I'll paint some African animals and some African landscapes, and maybe I will share with you what I have been painting while I was away. So thank you for watching, and if you haven't already, I would kindly ask you to sign up for my YouTube channel. And if you enjoyed this little talk and chat and play with color, please give me a thumbs up. Everything helps. And thanks again, and wish you happy painting and have some fun with color.